So don't just hand your kid a book and expect miracles. It takes a little effort on your part. Good morning to the Fox Medical team's Dr. Joette Giovinco. This is great advice, not just to improve your child's brain, but also the relationship between parent and child.
You know, that's absolutely true. Yeah, good morning. This was a study that was published in the American Academy of Pediatrics, and basically what it found is that the earlier you read to these kids and the more frequently you do, the better their brain develops. And what's really interesting about this, it was done at Children's Hospital in Cincinnati, is they did something called a functional MRI. So they took these children who had been read to, some of them had been read less to, but they took them and they put them in this chamber. They didn't give them anything that they could see, so they were either looking at a blank screen or closing their eyes, and then they put headphones on them, and it was a female voice that was reading stories to them with images that they could understand. And what they found is those kids who had been read to and had been primed, essentially, started to have areas in their brain light up. And it wasn't just the language areas, not just understanding the verbal portion, but also the visual cortex was lighting up, so they could kind of see what they were hearing in their ears. And some of the stories had to do with bunny rabbits and things that they could imagine. So, you know, I talked to this researcher last night, and what he said is basically their minds were then envisioning everything, and it really gave them that capability, which then translates into better early learning capabilities. So again, very, very important as their brains just develop, you know, exponentially during that time period of their lives.
Right, and we're talking as infants. It's never too early to start reading, and then go all the way up to kindergarten. But even when they go off to school, that time between parent and child is very, very precious. And I think the message for a lot of us is, don't just leave it up to the schools to do all the heavy lifting.
No, you're absolutely right. It is a bonding process between the parent and the child. And the other thing that I found was fascinating was he thinks that reading with a picture book, it's much better than, I mean, you don't want to stick them in front of a TV or give them a video, because they have to be able to then look at that picture and imagine what comes next. They have to see that bunny hopping away in their minds. And that's really causing, again, those areas to light up and their brains to develop better. And of course, there's the snuggle time and all of those other things. But, you know, I don't want to guilt parents out. There's parents that have, you know, tough work schedules, but you definitely want someone reading to that child, certainly. And 15, 20 minutes a day could be enough. Really
quickly, you need to ask about this carb and postmenopausal women study, and it's pretty important stuff.
It really is. So we're talking about refined, heavily refined carbs, white bread, white flour, white rice, white sugar, things with high glycemic index seem to increase the risk of depression in postmenopausal women. They followed them over time, and they found that when they think that it's because your blood sugar spikes so high after you eat something like this, and then you crash, right? You get insulin poured in, hormones change, and so they found that what was protective was when these women instead chose things with, you know, like say whole wheat bread or lots of fiber within the bread, brown rice. Oh, and they also said fruit juices did not seem to be protective, but the whole fruits did. And if you really look at these things very, very closely, the whole fruit has so much in it to counterbalance the sugar. When we take all that away, we take away the skin, we take away some of the other components of it, we're taking away the soluble fiber, and we're taking away the insoluble fiber, and some of the other things which are kind of almost magical within those fruits. So that really is the bottom line. If there is depression, you can potentially prevent these problems, you know, and it's such a difficult time for women anyway, by just cutting back on the bad stuff.
Great advice. Thanks, Dr. Joe. We appreciate it.